We'll begin by let's begin by reviewing our objectives for today. Um, okay, there we go. So we're going to start now. Our main objectives for today is to provide a brief overview of the TRG program for those who are new. There's a link on the slide in the web page that will give you the PDF version of this slide deck, and we'll post it after this webinar. We'll also provide guidance for completing the application and budget claim process and answer any questions. The webinar will be recorded along with the PDF version of the slide deck. So the TRG program was established in 2017 and was designed to support transitions to work or to post-secondary education for youths with IEPs. The program is a competitive grant program with an annual allocation of $1.5 million. This allocation was approved in the 2025-2027 budget cycle, so the funds are secured for the upcoming school year. The grant program is reviewed every 2 years to align with the state budget, so we will have to apply for renewal again in 2027. Since the TRG program started in 2018, we have awarded $12 million in grants to 203 school districts. So nearly half of the districts and charter schools in Wisconsin have received at least one TRG award, and 56 school districts have received 2 or more TRG awards. For the 2025-2026 cycle, we awarded 29 TRG grants. Nearly 3/4 of those districts have never received an award before. None of the recipients were consortiums, but most years we usually award a grant to a consortium of school districts. And this is a good time to remind you that this is an annual grant, so all districts are encouraged to apply each year. Last year, 1/4 of the awards went to reapplicants. These are districts which had received a prior award. As you can see from this pie chart, transportation options and competitive integrated employment training programs remain our most requested funding categories. The transportation requests take up over half of the awards, and CIE programs take up 1/3 of the TRG budget, followed by transition training for staff at 10% and post-secondary options for students at 4%. So this transition readiness grant supports evidence-based practices connected to successful post-school outcomes for students with disabilities. The application was released on March 3rd. Applications will be due May 1st, and it uses the template of the universal grant application developed by DPI for all statewide grants. Last year, the grant application was changed significantly from a fillable PDF application to a web-based Qualtrics survey that can be filled out online through your computer or on your phone. Half of the questions were eliminated, and the application has been streamlined to make it easier to apply. New applicants from school districts which had not received a TRG award before, they will need to answer 8 short answer questions that has questions or the answers will have a maximum of 2,000 characters. The applicants from school districts which have received a TRG award in the past 8 years, they only need to answer 6 short essay questions. And we'll go over the new application after the break. This is a brief review of the grant stipulations. The grant awards range from $25,000, which is the minimum award that you need to request, to a maximum of $100,000. If you are a small school and only have $15,000 in requests, I recommend partnering with another school district as a consortium in order to meet that $25,000 minimum. Eligible applicants are all public school districts and charter schools with a high school student population. There are 4 categories of funding for evidence-based practices related to successful transition from high school. These are transportation options, competitive integrated employment training programs, post-secondary tuition or supports for students, and transition training for staff members. And we'll discuss these categories in more detail. Also, please note that funding substitutions will not be allowed for a different category of grant award options. If you are awarded funding for Project Search, for example, that award will be granted based on the number of students planning on attending that program. If that student is not accepted into Project Search, you can use those funds for another competitive integrated employment program for the same student or for different students with disabilities. But those Project Search funds cannot be used for transportation or staff training. So within the same categories, there is flexibility in allowable costs. The district should continue to work with DPI to determine what those allowable costs and appropriate budget codes are. And more guidance on this will be provided with the grant award letters. So with transportation option, this was increased to a maximum of $45,000 last year. This covers all budget requests related to transportation, including purchase of a van exclusively for students with disabilities. If you need to provide students with bus transportation for college or work field trips, or help students obtain their driver's licenses, or purchase bus passes to get to work, or you need funds to repair your special ed van, all of these requests cannot exceed a total of $45,000, and only one transportation award is allowed per grant. The CIE training programs are a popular funding category. They can be tuition and support for Project Search, vocational training, tuition and supports for programs through the Wisconsin Technical College System. They can be youth apprenticeship programs, including school-sponsored apprenticeships, or they can be a collaboration between your district and a local employer to provide a job program that meets the definition of CIE. Competitive integrated employment. TRG can fund the student wages or a stipend by reimbursing the employer's cost. If you're creating your own program or accessing something besides Project Search and WTCS apprenticeships, you need to include related coursework and competitive work experience. And you're welcome to meet with me and Alicia to discuss if your CIE program qualifies under these guidelines. The keys to this funding category is that the competitive integrated employment work experience and related coursework must follow the definition of CIE that is in the grant guidelines, and that's in the document posted on the website. The highlights of this include that the competitive integrated employment meets the definition set forth by WIOA, which is that full-time or part-time work paid at minimum wage or commensurate wage for the same work as other employees, having the same benefits as those provided to other employees, opportunities to interact with persons who do not have disabilities, and having the same opportunities for advancement as employees without disabilities. If you're requesting funding for this category, your proposal needs to describe how your program meets CIE requirements. Now, the post-secondary tuition and supports, this category was increased to $1,500 per student after request for students to take more than one course in a year. The $1,500 includes tuition, textbook costs, and field trips to colleges. And these costs must be incurred by June 30th, 2027. Normally, it's for students who take courses before high school graduation, but we do have an exception, which is prepaying college tuition for a class after a student with disabilities graduates from high school. Transition training for staff members, this includes the certificate programs as well as TIG online courses, but also it expands to other training opportunities that address local transition needs. So examples could be the National Dropout Conference or a Division on Career Development Transition Conference. Applicants must identify how training selected in this category aligns with the root cause that you mentioned in your application. Allowable costs for this category includes travel expenses, registration or tuition for the training, and costs for substitute coverage while staff is in training. Other types of training that we've allowed include organizing a special workshop in your district for staff regarding transition training. This grant would cover the speaker fee or other expenses depending on the number of staff who are receiving training. That training, though, must be related to transitions, such as learning skills to develop IEP. So training that is incidental to transitions, whether you're learning skills to develop IEPs or how to communicate with schools or school safety training, those are not allowed. That the maximum reimbursement is $1,200 per staff member, and that includes all expenses related to the training. The exception to these funds are the non-allowable costs. Equipment for school micro businesses generally are not allowed unless you are purchasing adaptive equipment for a student with disabilities, such as a special tool for a specific student so they can participate in that employment. So an example of this is an apprenticeship in food service or maintenance in the school. You can purchase adaptive kitchen utensils or adaptive cleaning tools, but we do not cover popcorn or coffee equipment or food trucks or carts. It also cannot cover the salary and benefits of a job coach, whether that job coach works inside the school or helps a student inside the workplace. TRG also does not cover life skills equipment like kitchen or laundry appliances. Now, some of the innovative funding requests that we've seen in our applications include supplementing expenses and supports for youth apprenticeship programs, district-wide training or capacity building, prepaying tuition for graduating seniors, costs for driver's education and licensing fees, and braiding TRG funding and other supports from DVR, Perkins, and other grants. So employment training programs where a district hosts project search. You can pay the teacher's salary for their own project search program. You can pay for the transition coordinator to organize employment opportunities for your students with disabilities. And it might be helpful to meet with me and Alicia to discuss the particulars if you're creating your own CIE training program. And if you want to prepay tuition, those funds have to be spent by the end of the fiscal year, and you can discuss with us how to do that. So funds are awarded under this grant program will need to be expended between July 1st, 2026 and June 30, 2027. Grant recipients will need to expend the funds first and then claim for reimbursement. And grant recipients usually claim at least twice per year via the program fiscal report, PI 1086 form that is submitted to DPI claims forms at dpi.wi.gov. It's important to note that this PI 1086 form must be signed by the business manager or the district administrator or another district designee. A lot of the forms have been returned because they are submitted without a signature. The Transition Readiness Grant will be booked in Fund 27. The project code for the TRG program is 451. Project 011 and 019 expenditures are the only expenditures pulled into the IDA maintenance of effort calculation. So the state-funded transition grant expenditures will not increase your district's local maintenance of effort level. The state grant revenue received should offset any expenditures coded to this new state grant project code and will not impact your Fund 10 to Fund 27 transfer. And there's a list of applicable WUFAR codes for the 4 funding categories that's available in the application support section of the TRG website. Now, we updated the universal grant application for all statewide competitive grants last year, and we used a truncated version of the universal application in a Qualtrics survey format. The online application creates a better flow in order for the questions to help applicants write a comprehensive proposal. This application will ask all applicants to review data to identify your priorities, to identify how grant funds will impact your priorities and adult practices, and it will create a plan for evaluating and sustaining services created by having access to a grant award. The new applicants in particular will need to connect their data analysis and priorities to the 4 evidence-based funding categories. So I will go through the new online format after the break, but the application, you can prepare a draft using the template, and then you can just copy your essay answers onto the online application. Once you submit the application, a copy of it will be sent to the project contact. If you're applying as part of a consortium, you need to apply together in one application, and the consortium members are identified in a form PI 1500, and only the applications that are submitted through the web portal will be considered. And I will go through the new online format after the break. This year, we're trying something new. Alicia and I will be hosting open house hours before the application deadline. Every other Friday, we will be available to meet between 11 a.m. and 12 p.m. to discuss your program or project or answer any questions you may have regarding the TRG application. And the link to that meeting is on our webpage. It's the same Teams link for all the meetings. And in the last 3 Fridays in April, we will be available to meet every week. We're going to break for 5 to 10 minutes, depending on the number of questions that we have in the chat.
We don't have any questions yet, but I'm imagining they might start coming in. So we'll just provide a minute for folks to reflect. Feel free to add those questions in the chat, and we will answer them as they come in. So the first question is, what criteria is used to select grant recipients?
So when we get the applications, we kind of divide them into 2 piles, the new applicants and the reapplicants. And the reviewers, when they read all the applications, there is a rubric that is also on the application support section of the TRG webpage. And the answers to each of these essay questions are scored from 0 to 4, 4 being exemplary. And then we total up all of those scores based on the project and how well the district answers those questions. And then those are totaled, and then we sort them based on scores. For reapplicants, we added these weights that take into account how many awards that district has already received, how much they received total in grants, and when was the last time that they received an award. Because some districts only applied like in 2018. Some districts received an award last year. So we take that into consideration. And I can go over that more in more depth after the break.
Yep, I think you have a slide ready for that. Okay, we
Mhm.
have two more questions that have come in. Are districts eligible to receive the grant 2 years in a row? If so, does the grant need to be written as a continuation of the previous year, or can it be for a new direction?
Well, one of the things that we asked of reapplicants is to differentiate the award that they are the grant that they're applying for from the award um, that they received. Because we do want to see that a school district is able to sustain the program that they said that they were going to create out of the grant. So it could be for either. You could ask to expand your program to reach more students, or if you based on how the program went last year, you could go in a different direction and try something new and ask for different um, a different award or a different program.
Great. So the next question is related to CIE programs, so I'll probably start, but then please chime in, Cecile, if you have any details to add. So the next question is, as grant funding must be used in the year it is requested and can be used for CIE program wages, how do you suggest planning for continuation of work in a program if wages are relying on grant funding? So one thing I would suggest is that needs to be a discussion, and this work experience often can lead to more permanent employment for students. So one, it might be a work experience where students are really trying to do some discovery and figuring out what kind of career areas they might be interested in when they leave school, or they might be developing some job skills that will support them in their career goals later on. And so in that case, sometimes work experiences are temporary in the end and they end, no different than a student having a summer job. However, we designed this work experience option specifically to be very similar to the training or the temporary work experiences that DVR utilizes with students, knowing that we know from that setup that if a student is employed with an employer and proves themselves as an employee, often after that temporary work experience ends, that employer sees the benefit of keeping the student on. And so at the end of the grant year, if funds could no longer be used to cover wages, it's more than likely that that employer may offer that student more permanent employment long term. So those would be my two main suggestions. Cecile, did you have anything to add there?
No.
Okay. And then the last question that has come in was about someone being new to their district, and how can they find out if their district had already received a grant. And I shared that wonderful list that you created, Cecile, which has all of the past recipients from the website. So I think that covers the questions for right now. Should we just wait maybe one more minute and see if anyone's still typing? Okay, I'm not seeing anything else at this time, so why don't we move into the second half of the presentation?
Okay. So in the website, the TRG website, there is an application support system, application support section, and there you'll find many resources to support your application process. There's an FAQ document, and that's actually going to be revised to add the questions that came up in this webinar. There's an application template That's a PDF that shows each page of the online application, so you can prepare your responses offline and copy them onto the online app. There's a grant guidelines that provide step-by-step directions on each section of the application. There's a scoring rubric that shows how the applications are reviewed and scored by the reviewers. And there's a WUFAR coding guidance that's used after a district receives an award, since they'll need to submit a budget detail and budget summary report using this coding guidance. And then thanks to the TIG staff, the Transition Improvement Grant staff, they put together 3 documents listed under data analysis resources to help new applicants answer questions about your priority statements and crafting your root cause analysis. There's a slide deck that explains the data analysis guides, guidance on analyzing indicators 1 and 2, which are the graduation and dropout data, and guidance on analyzing indicator 4. This is the post-secondary outcome survey. So the TRG application is no longer a PDF file. It's an online Qualtrics survey. You can fill it out on your computer or on your phone. If you're using the same browser, you can save, or it automatically saves your draft application, so you don't need to retype everything. But if for some reason you do need to restart and create a new application, you will either need to clear your cookies or use a different browser to restart the application. The PDF template, as I mentioned, will be under application support on our website. We don't have a preview option of the application, just that template. And that shows all the questions that are in the application. There's general info that you have to fill out. That is the name of your district or charter school, your CISA number, the name and contact info for your district administrator. The applicant is the project contact, or that could be the transition coordinator, special ed teacher, or director. And then we also need the fiscal contact, which is your business manager. And after you submit your application, the project contact will receive an email acknowledging receipt of the application and a PDF copy of what you've submitted. Because it's an online application, the application moves like a flowchart with branching questions. So if you've received a prior TRG award, either individually as a district or as part of a consortium, your questions and examples will differ from the districts who have not received an award before. So we have this new feature that's in the website. There's a box regarding previous grant years, and that includes an alphabetical list of all TRG award recipients from the past 8 years. And we'll continue to keep that updated. So if you're new to your position or you're new to your school district and you can't find out if your district has received a TRG award before, you can search this file. It's an alphabetical list of all the districts that have received an award, and it lists them by years and also the total amount that their awards total. The schools which applied as part of a consortium are also included, but the total award amount is listed under the district or the county that acted as the fiscal agent. For those who are applying as a consortium, there is an extra form, the PI 1500. This is the consortium verification form. It's filled out by the administering agency. There's only one district in the consortium that is considered the fiscal agent, and that fiscal agent is responsible for submitting claims to DPI and the money flows to that fiscal agent. And that district distributes to all the other districts in the consortium the invoice for purchases, and that's between the two districts, the fiscal agent and the partner district, because the districts in the consortium cannot claim individually. And this PDF form will need to be submitted on the last page of the application, this consortium verification. So after those questions, there'll be the abstract that's required of all applicants. And this is the summary that we review very closely. If you look at the rubric, the abstract section gives the most points. And all short answers are limited to 2,000 characters. After the abstract, there's an assurances and certification page. And you can read the text of the grant assurances online here. There's also a link to a PDF that needs the signature of your district administrator, building principal, or the director of special education, someone who is authorized to direct the use of grant funds to support transition services for students with IEPs. And the signed assurances will need to be submitted on the last page of the application. The next page is the readiness section. Only new applicants will need to answer this question about the stakeholders, about who the stakeholders are for your grant project and what roles they have in implementing the project. There's a plan section, which is a demonstration of need that is asked of all applicants. Here, the overall specific needs for the target populations are identified, including the supporting data to determine those needs. New applicants will have this specific example where they reference their data analysis and how it ties in with their plan. For the re-applicants, their plan section will have a different example. And here we want re-applicants to explain how your prior TRG award differs from your current application, or what you'll do differently in this grant. New applicants will also need to analyze the root causes of the priority statements and data referenced in this section. If you visit the application support section of the website, I mentioned there are resources that will help you complete the data analysis that is required for this root causes section. And then in the next section, all applicants will need to define their priority areas or statements to address the root causes of the needs. For new applicants, you need to include your approach to addressing one or more of the root causes of this grant project and describe how the grant fits into this approach. For those reapplying for a TRG, we want more description on how this grant project differs from your previous projects that were funded. As a reapplicant, we assume that you've already done the root cause analysis in your previous app. So you can just reference those root causes. And then all applicants need to submit this study check evaluation section. This is a little different from last year. Last year, only districts that applied for CIE or post-secondary programming needed to answer this question. And because it's under evaluation, the question asked about the process used to collect and analyze grant-specific data. This year, you will need to describe your program in more detail, whether you're asking for driver's ed classes under transportation or dual enrollment courses at a technical college or funds for staff to attend a conference. So for post-secondary institutions, you need to identify the courses that students will take and how they will benefit those students. Or transition training for staff, please identify the workshops or conferences selected and the expected impact on the staff. So for applicants who select CIE programs, this is a section where we want a fuller description of your program to determine if it does meet the criteria of a competitive integrated employment program. Established programs like Project Search or technical college vocational training programs are a little easier to describe than a homegrown youth apprenticeship program or a new work-based learning opportunity. Applicants may create individualized programs for their students as long as they meet the criteria of the Workforce Innovations and Opportunity Act, or WIOA. Career and technical education engagement is a key evidence-based practice in supporting graduation rates and positive post-school outcomes for students with IEPs. So please refer to the WIOA criteria for allowable programs under this category. And we list the criteria here as well as in the grant guidelines document. The primary criteria is that the employment must have the same wages, benefits, and opportunities for advancement provided to other employees, and the employed students are able to interact with other peers who do not have disabilities. So essentially, the programs can't be a segregated work environment. And then the next two questions will be asked of all applicants. This is a section that is especially important for reapplicants. This is the coordination and sustainability section. It is a priority that grant recipients create plans to coordinate grant funds with other federal, state, and local resources like DVR. After the coordination question comes the sustainability question. It's asked for all applicants. Previous grant recipients must reference how services have been sustained since the last grant award. This is a scoring priority for previous recipients since TRG is meant to fund new and innovative programs to help equip students with IEPs, the skills and training they need to succeed after high school. And then one of the minor changes we made to this year's application is that we moved this award options to the end of the application rather than the middle. The first page of the award categories has all 4 categories. So whichever box or boxes you check off will take you to another page asking for more information. So the total requests for transportation options, those shouldn't exceed 45,000. And you can enter the amount that you're requesting for things like bus passes or driver's ed or other transportation options like bikes for students to get to their work site or taxi fares for students to get to their technical college or their employment. So if you are requesting bus passes or driver's ed classes, you will need to indicate the number of students who will be using those passes or classes. Under CIE program options, if you're only asking for project search funds, you can enter 0 in the other CIE programs. But if you are utilizing other CIE programs, you can enter up to 2 of them if they are not project search. So if you are asking for project search, it automatic, since the cost of that is 15,000, that's automatically uploaded, and then you enter the number of students. And then in the other ones, you can enter however much it will cost to run that program for those students. So if you have like a youth apprenticeship or a partnership with technical college or local employer, you enter the number of students and the cost per student. For post-secondary tuition and supports, you can list between 1 and 3 different institutions where they're taking the classes. And here you enter the number of students and the cost. It can't be more than $1,500 per student. And for transition training for staff, you can list between 1 and 3 types of programs for staff. And then you have to enter what that conference or training program is, the number of staff, and the cost. The $1,200 per staff includes travel, lodging, meals, and substitute coverage during training. If a staff wanted to attend more than one program, they can, as long as the maximum amount reimbursable does not exceed the $1,200 per year. And then after you enter all the details on each page of the award categories, you get to this page. It's essentially a warning that this is the last page. You'll see this back button. And when you reach this page and your application is incomplete, you can still go back and edit any sections that were missing or incomplete. But after you hit next, you can only go forward and submit the application. And the reason that you can't go back is that when you get to this page, the summary page takes all the subtotals that were entered for transportation, CIE, post-secondary, transition training request, and all of those will automatically get entered here and get totaled up. And this total must be between 25,000 and 100,000. So if you do end up on this page and you realize some of your pages were incomplete or incorrect, it's best to just restart the application using a new browser. Because when you hit next, then you can only submit those forms that were required, the consortium verification if you're applying as a consortium, and the grant assurances that required the signature. And then the last thing that I wanted to discuss is the scoring process. So the application is reviewed by at least 2 reviewers, sometimes 3. The scoring will take place during the month of May and June, and districts who have not previously received an award are prioritized. In addition, the grant scoring team will consider sustainability of services for applicants who have previously received an award. All districts who submit a complete application will remain eligible for an award regardless of the status of previous awards or other scoring components. And it's our hope to provide award letters in mid-July, but approvals and signatures need to go up the chain of command to the superintendent's office, and that does sometimes takes a while. So I mentioned that the new applicants who have not received an award before receive priority funding. For the reapplicants, after each application receives a total score, there's 3 weighted scores that are added based on how many awards they receive, the total amount of their TRG award, and the number of years since that last award was granted. And you can figure out your district weights from this list that I showed earlier, since it lists all the years that a district received an award and the total. So there's this week number 1, which is the number of awards received. So if you've only received 1 award, then you get more points. If you only requested 30,000 in that award, then you also get more points. And then if you received your award 4 years or more ago, then you also receive a higher weight. And then the last thing is that once grant recipients are notified, they have to submit grant summary using this Google or Microsoft form that evaluates the impact of the grant funds. And this we send to all districts in May, and you need to complete that and submit the form no later than June 30th. And then once a district is awarded a grant, they're required to submit a budget summary and a budget details page. Those filling out those sections, you can use the manual that's found in the application support section. And these pages are necessary for our school finance team to process your claim for reimbursement. And we do include a list of WUFAR codes that are usually used for the TRG. And so lastly, our website will include the slide deck of this presentation that I just showed, and recording will also be posted by the end of the week, the recording of this webinar. And that is it. So if you have additional questions, we can answer those questions now.
Great. I'll just reiterate. I think you've covered the questions that have come up, but we'll just repeat them in case folks are just listening and not be able to see the chat. So the first question that has come in so far since the break was, when will we know if we were awarded the grant or not? Sounds like you said the timeline is probably mid-July for that.
Mhm.
Okay. And then if my district received an award several years ago, is there a way I can access the details of the award to be able to pull information from the previous answers and questions? And so I had just replied to that webinar participant and said that if they email you, then you can provide the past grant applications.
Yeah.
And then lastly, just wanted to note, I think there was one typo when you were just talking about the forms that are submitted at the end of the application. The consortium form is PI 1500. I think maybe one of the last slides said 1550. So just note,
Oh,
but that's in the application for folks. So I wouldn't fret too much about that. It's linked directly in there for you.
okay.
Any other questions? Feel free to add those to the chat.
I wanted to remind people that we, an easier way to do this, but there. That we will have be having open house hours starting this Friday. If you want to discuss your program in more detail.
Yes, thank you for that reminder. And just for maybe you're brand new and have never submitted an application before, um, those office hours will definitely be able to discuss allowable costs, and how you, if you are wondering how to apply for a certain thing, but we cannot provide feedback on answers to applications during that time. It will just be questions around allowable costs and general grant processes. We do have one question. I'm retiring on June 30th. What should I do with putting down the contact person moving forward after that date?
Probably the director of special ed, or even your building principal, whoever will, I guess, will be supervising that award next year.
The next question is, when will the slide deck be posted on the website?
After this meeting.
Oh, Mary, I see your reply. You are the director. I would suggest, Mary, either putting the superintendent or a contact in the business office so that they receive the messages and then can share that with the new director when the position is filled. Any other questions? I'm not seeing anything else in the chat, Cecile. Anything else we need to do to wrap up today's meeting?
No, as I mentioned, the slide deck will be posted on the website after this meeting, and the webinar recording will be available by the end of the week.
Great. Thanks everyone for joining us. We look forward to reading your applications, and we'll let you all get back to your day.
Bye.